Ah, greetings, fair lady. Do not let me stand in your way, as I did not come to the stone for its blessing or succor. I passed by these stones by chance, and prayed to the stars that my mind be swift and its burdens light. The steed's blessing, however, will only grant those attributes to the body, and I only carry what you see before you. Just a few words for the souls in the sky that watch over Tamriel. These stones are like a bridge that connects our world to theirs. The Doomstones are said to be built from the fragments of stars, much like the Ayleid stones of legend. Thus, these stones, these wellsprings, represent the very provenance of magic. That is why those who practice the arcane are often drawn to these bridges, these pieces of heaven. But my apologies for prattling on, stranger, as I have not yet introduced myself. My name is Valgus, a healer who follows the stars. I was born in Skingrad, my lady, near the southern border of Cyrodiil. Growing up amidst the Great War, all my life I've been surrounded by death. My father taught me that to kill a man is an easy thing, and during those times it came easy for most. But to heal a man, to save him from certain death, that was nothing short of a miracle, and that was something all good men should strive for. Sadly, I did not discover the truth of his words until I was stricken by tragedy. Such are the stumbles of youth. We do not heed sage advice, but rather, we allow our mistakes to confirm its wisdom. My wife, we had married just before the war began, after the Empire had lost the southern provinces to the Thalmor. Everyone knew the war would come north eventually. I picked up a blade. She opted to forge one. I never thought I would be the one to mourn her. But don't feel sorry for me, my lady. It has been over 30 years. More time has passed since her death than she's spent among the living. My apologies. It's not a story I wish to share at this time. I will close your wounds, great and small. It was war, my lady. Wherever there are wounded, I will be. I journeyed to the various military camps across Skyrim to offer my assistance. On Lordas and Sundas, however, you can find me at the Temple of Kinnereth. I offer what I have learned on my travels to the temple healers so they may spread the knowledge to others. They say a restoration mage can save more lives by teaching the principles of his craft rather than practicing them. I aim to do both. I would, but the Stormcloaks are wary of letting an Imperial, especially a former Legion soldier, tend to their injured. Their actions only weaken their forces, as I'm forced to provide my services to one side of the war. I've tried to explain this to the commanders with limited success. It is possible my disdain for Ulfric and his lust for power color my pleas. The man is a bit of a tyrant, and those who fight under his banner are victims to his false ideals. Thank you, my lady. I do it not for the glory, but for the wounded and their families. It was after the White Gold Concordant was signed. Magical talent had run through my family for years, but I was intent on becoming a soldier. My father was the type to encourage his son to pursue his goals, even though he quietly disapproved of the pursuit. He had always looked upon my accomplishments with great pride, but it wasn't until I asked him about restoration that I saw his eyes widen with joy. The old man had no idea what he was in for. My appetite for knowledge was nothing short of rapacious. I consumed book after book, tome after tome. By the end of the month, I had exhausted all the lantern oil in the basement and every candle had burned to week's end. My father quipped that he should have taught me alteration magic instead, so I at least could have read my tomes by mage light. I can close your wounds and heal them as well as my own. I possess knowledge in wards and stoneflesh, as to prevent injuries is more efficient than to heal them. Every mage, regardless of the school they specialize in, knows a few destruction spells. At first I scoffed at the notion, as I was already an accomplished soldier. However, time has deteriorated my battle skills. It's far easier to study a few tomes on lightning magic than to pick up a mace, and I had vowed never to touch another sword. And of course I did eventually learn to use Mage Light at my father's behest. Do not be afraid to ask if you have more. Yes. Unfortunately, it has not been an unfamiliar sight. I spent much of my youth in places like this, both as a soldier and a son. My father was a healer. He would walk the fields after a battle looking for wounded. Before the war, it was mostly guardsmen, adventurers, and bounty hunters caught in skirmishes with bandits and other rogue clans. We would tend to the wounds and give peace to others, and escort those we could back to the nearest town. My father did not care for what race or creed you followed. He healed all the sick, all the injured, and let the politics sort itself out. There was no greater evidence of this when he found a young Khajiit kneeling over the body of an Imperial. A dagger was lodged in her stomach. My father closed her wounds as I searched the body for health potions. I found a note. It revealed the Khajiit to be a Thalmor spy. True enough, but that was not my father's intent. Perhaps he knew that was her fate. So instead of taking her to the city, we brought her to a small village. He told the villagers that the Khajiit had committed murder, and she should be imprisoned for her crime. He never revealed her true identity. For a soldier, it was a horrible decision. For a healer, it was the only one. Happiness is not a daily goal. Remember that when the night is long. My wife never had a proper burial. She would have liked a cemetery like this. Calm, understated, the stone facing a gentle breeze. We were stationed together, near the crossing where Cyrodiil meets Valenwood and elsewhere. She was the quartermaster's apprentice. I was a scout. We had heard rumors that Lord Norafin had raised an army in Arinthia with the intent to invade. Our commander sent scouts to investigate. I was a member of that group. We set out west and combed the border region for 3 days. There were plenty of small camps and garrisons, but no evidence that Lord Norafin himself had brought his armies to the border. We decided to scout for one more night before returning back. It was then that our eyes were drawn not south but north by geysers of fire. Norafin's men had not come from Valenwood, but from hidden camps strewn about elsewhere. The forces gathered in Arinthia was a secondary army. They were to flank the Legion troops that sought to regroup from the invasion. But in that moment, I cared not for military tactics or the fate of the Empire. All my thoughts turned to my wife. Yet there was. If I was the man I am now, things would have been different. It was not the Thalmor who killed her. When we returned, we found the entire camp reduced to ashes. But my wife was alive, laying against a tree not 10 yards away, staring at Sovngarde. Her wounds, however, would not let her live much longer. We needed a healer, and I had but a sword. She touched my blade and asked for my help, to give her death, so that she could cross the bridge to Sovngarde. She could see it, she said, the great mead hall standing high on the edge of the horizon. No, I told her, it was but a dream. You belong here on this plane, in this world. This is what's real. She froze me with those deep, mournful eyes and said, the day we married, you asked me if I was ever so happy that I felt like I was dreaming. And I told you, my silly husband, what do you think this is, if not a dream? You're right. It is long past time I did. This I have been saying for 20 years, mind you. But only now do those words have conviction. I thank you, my lady, for bringing me here and being such pleasant company. In all my travels, I have not had a more resourceful companion, or a more beautiful one. I wish to thank you for taking me here, my lady. In our travels, you may have noticed my fondness for stories and poetry as well as for magic. And this library is a wealth of all three. Not in my youth, but after the war ended and I lost my wife, I buried myself in studies, reading every tome I could on restoration. My father was a master at the craft. Naturally, I turned to his library for support. I could tell you the tale of my first lesson, if you will oblige me. Looking at these shelves, I think back to when my father gave me my first book on restoration. It was not a spell tome or a guide, but a story. A frivolous tale of mystery, princesses, and court intrigue. Naturally, I was confused. My father smiled and simply told me to read the book. Even when I had finished, I still did not understand. It was then my father pointed to a passage towards the end. He said, "Notice how when Ramke heals the girl, she presses her hands against both sides of the wound. When knitting a wound with thread or magic, one must apply pressure to both sides equally, aligning the skin as you repair it. Doing so will prevent scarring, conserve magicka, and heal it faster." That was my first lesson. There are many paths to knowledge, and not all of them clear. As for the story of Talara, my father spoiled that ending. Apparently, there are no more restoration lessons to be gleaned from that series. I have always been a bit of a romantic, and that is why I'm conflicted. Part of me believes that true love comes once in a lifetime. There is another part of me, however, that believes love is more than childish fancy, that real love is built over time and time spent together. Lenora was my first love, and in truth, it was a love that had yet to reach full bloom. We were married so quickly, as it was the Nord's way, and as a young and compulsive man, I was in no mood to dissent. Sometimes, I wonder if it's the manner in which we parted that is the cause of my attachment, and not the time we spent together. But when I try to recall those memories, those days when we were happy, it all seems to blend together, like a forgotten dream. The amulet of Mara. You seek marriage, then. It is a noble endeavor. I was not sure, given my past, it would be something I desired. But now, after being with you, and knowing you, I feel as if I'm ready. And I love you as well. Then it's settled. We should meet in the chapel of Riften. My love, as a wanderer, I have no home. But if you would like for me to settle down somewhere, I am willing. Wonderful. I'll meet you there. Love, I think I'm going to start a store. It'll help me get to know the locals better. Greetings, my love. I tend to keep prices low. I found that helps with both customers and our profits. Here's your share. As well as can be expected, my dear. I never thought I would play the role of merchant, but learning a new craft brings its share of excitement. It has not come as easily as restoration did, which is understandable, given my ancestors were never good with coin. But I'd much rather prefer adventuring with you, my dear, and sleeping under the stars. Of course, this mill should help restore your strength. I come from humble births, and sought to carry myself with humility. A quiet home like this is perfect. I would love to have them, and if we needed to adopt, so be it. I am at an age where my time on this plane is short. Even now I can feel the pull of Aetherius on my soul, but do not fret, as I would not leave you for anything, my love. It will take the strength of all the gods in this life, and the next, to drag me away from your side. Archmage. You have gone from a nameless apprentice to head of the college in the time that it takes most of us to learn our first spell. Needless to say, I'm proud of what you've accomplished here. Given what was asked, many in your situation would have wilted under the pressure. Such is the curse of the apprentice stone. For all of your strength, you're left vulnerable to your lack of experience. Yet the stars have shown that you are no mere apprentice, but rather a leader with the shadow's cunning and the mage's wisdom. And of course, the lover's beauty. But that, my dear, is as plain as day. If anyone knows that, my dear, it is I. Still, the title does have its perks. Perhaps Urok wouldn't mind so much if your husband burns the midnight oil. My lady, my love, it is not right that I must wait here while you risk your life against impossible odds. If I could, I would take your place in all the burdens of this world, so that you can have the life that the stars have taken from you. But alas, no amount of chivalry will change the truth. And know that I will be here, praying for your return. In fact, it was a prayer that brought us together. Remember that day when we met at the Steedstone? You were so beautiful. Ah, my lady is kind, but I was lost then. While the stars lit your path, I stumbled in the darkness. But then our paths crossed, and your light shone brightly enough for two. I love you. These 3 words I give you. They will not protect you from dragons, or phantoms, or beasts, but they can travel across worlds. From here to Aetherius. They will be with you always, even when I am not. I heard the world leader was dead, and yet as I waited for you to return, I could not help but think the worst. Forgive me for my foolishness, my dear. Truly the stars would not be so cruel as to take you from me now. You are a true hero. You have the warrior's courage, the lover's compassion, and the lady's kindness. But to me you are more than that. You are my wife, my one true love. Tonight I want you here, by my side. The world can wait. Then come with me to the bed, my love. For not even dragons can come between us.